because Eddie Jones, the coach of England Rugby, is here with us. Eddie, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you.
How are you guys? All right?
Hi, Eddie. Very well, thank you.
Very well indeed. Now, as we look down through the record of England at the moment, 14 consecutive Test victories, fantastic record, which is equalled Sir Clive Woodward's. You say it's not enough, though. You want more, right?
Oh, we want to be the number one team in the world, you know. We've got the potential to do it, and when we do that, then we can be satisfied.
Yeah, Eddie, I wanted to ask you one particular player I have in mind, Chris Robshaw. When you're the captain and you are literally at the front of the queue, first man to walk out on the pitch, you open the dressing room door, you go out, and then a new boss comes along, that's yourself, and you're no longer at the front of the queue. It's always a danger, isn't it? They're going to break the morale and the spirit of a guy like that.
Yes and no, but... Yeah, there's no reason why he can't still be in the team and still be a leader and still be a very valuable member, and that's what Chris has been, you know. He handled it extremely well. He's a good style of a bloke and very well liked by the players. Mm-hmm. So the players wanted him in the team, he wanted to be in the team, and he's just filled a great role for us. Yeah,
OK. So you think he's better off without the responsibility of captaincy on his shoulders, then?
Well, some guys are, you know. When you meet a player, you know pretty much straight away whether they want to be at the front of the queue or in the middle of the queue.
Right.
Yeah, and both positions are equally important. And I felt meeting Chris, he was a guy that worked best behind the scenes, and that's what he's done. You know, his influence on the team has been absolutely enormous.
And Eddie, when you talk about that there's more to do and you want to be the best team in the world, obviously looking at the All Blacks as the best team in the world, how do you become as good as the All Blacks, and with what sort of time frame are you thinking?
Well, we only need to get there by the 2nd November 2019, which is the World Cup final. So that's our target. You know, to be the best team in the world, you've got to be able to neutralise the opposition's strengths and then be able to maximise your strengths. So that's what we're in the process of doing at the moment. You know, the All Blacks are good at certain things, we're good at certain things, and we're going to try to cut out those All Black strengths and work on our strengths. So every time we play a game from now on, you know, we're looking at building a game of beating the All Blacks.
Like when you played Australia at the weekend, it was said to be, and I guess you would have said this yourself, not one of the greatest England performances, but they showed a lot more kind of grit and determination perhaps than they have in the past to get back on top.
Yeah, no, it showed plenty of ticker, mate. You know, considering we were missing at least seven frontline players against the full strength Australian side that, you know, 12 months ago was the World Cup finalist. It was a pretty fair performance, not in terms of it wasn't a classic performance, but generally speaking, in big games, you very rarely get classic performances, do you?
Well, sometimes I suppose the tension is too much for some people. Eddie, how do you transfer your instinctive national pride and loyalty from where you were born, where you come from, Antipodean, to England? Because, look, I'm delighted that you're doing a brilliant job for us. Thank you very much indeed.
Because you've always said in football you don't want a foreign coach.
I don't. I'm a very big fan of the England football team, Eddie, and I always prefer to have an Englishman in charge, because I think when you employ an Italian coach who can't really speak very good English, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I can't speak very good English. I'm not batting too well.
We noticed that. No, but seriously.
No, seriously. Well, you know, I still love my country. You know, I don't try to go away from that, but I'm an absolutely driven professional coach, and I've been lucky enough to be given the job to make England rugby strong again. And I'm giving it absolutely everything I've got, and the players know that. So when the players know that, you know, generally speaking, the players want to get, every player in the world that's worth coaching wants to get better. So if you, it doesn't matter whether you're Australian or Chinese or Mongolian, if that coach comes in and he makes that player better, then the player's going to work for him, and that's what's happened, I think. You know, and the nationalistic part, I think, is important, and we've got 3 assistant coaches that are all English. You know, so any of that shortfall in that area that assistant coaches pick up, which I think is important. I think you're right.
Yeah.
So you have that built into the system. But I was going to ask you, because of the fact that rugby does seem to be able to do this much easier than football. Football fans and rugby fans maybe have a different view. But looking around the home nations, for example, after you being in charge of England, we've got Joe Schmidt in charge of Ireland, Vern Cotter, Scotland, Warren Gatland, Wales. I mean, is there a dearth of good, decent head coaches in rugby from the British Isles?
Well, I think they're comfortable here. I think the club coaches here are comfortable because, they make a pretty good living. It's not the cutthroat environment of the football, is it? They're talking about Ranieri now being sacked, aren't they? I heard you had people ringing yesterday saying they should sack him. It's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah,
He's won the championship last year. He's got him top of the group in the Champions League, and now people want to sack him. Whereas in rugby, there's not that desperation to change coaches. So I think the English club coaches are a little bit too comfortable and probably need to get out of their comfort zone.
That's a very interesting observation, that, because you would think that they'd be self-motivating, wouldn't you, in a game like rugby, particularly as we have such strong support in this country. Twickenham must be an amazing place to be when you're, when your team's going forward and you're leading one of the world's great teams by 10 or 12 points. Do you feel in coming here, Eddie, and with the other coaches that my colleague Mike has outlined to you, that England can revolutionise themselves now and start producing those guys?
100%. There's no doubt about that. It's like you guys on radio. If you didn't have ratings, you'd probably be a bit more comfortable. You might come in 1 minute late one day. You might have a few extra beers the night before, not be at your best. But because you have ratings, you have to be at your best, don't you?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
Otherwise, you don't survive.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying in rugby is that there's not that massive survival instinct in coaches in Europe.
Right.
Whereas you look at football on the other hand, where do all the best coaches come from?
Yeah.
They come from tiny little countries where you have to be that good to get through. Otherwise you don't survive. Look at Portugal, Spain, the sort of coaches they produce. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
It is,
right.
yeah.
Now, coming next year, we've got the Lions tour. The three assistant coaches were named today. Steve Borthwick from England, Rob Howley, and Andy Farrell, of course, are going to go as well. Is that something that is for you a disruptive sort of influence on your preparation for the World Cup and for where you want to get to, or how can you help, for example, the Lions to take on New Zealand and win?
Well, we can help the Lions win by producing good players, and we're hopeful of having 10 to 15 players in that Lions squad, and we want them to be players that are capable of beating New Zealand. So we can help the Lions by producing good players, and the Lions can help us by beating New Zealand. And then the players have the confidence of beating New Zealand, because once you've played against New Zealand, you've beaten them, a lot of that mystique and aura goes away from it, and that's an important thing in sport. So we'll play our part like that, and we need to have a really good Six Nations to do that.
Sure. And finally, just one last sort of tip to football as well. Roy Hodgson's come out today. We've been talking about it on the show about how during the Euros the players ignored him, didn't listen to what he was saying, and didn't do what he wanted. What would you do if some players in your squad did that, Eddie?
Well, I think, once they get on the field, you've got to give them the responsibility of making decisions. They can't be told what to do on the field, and if they're not good enough to make those decisions, they shouldn't be out there in the first place. So we really encourage our players to make decisions on the field, because, we're not like basketball. You can't go on the field and can't go on the court and have a timeout and give instructions on the game. You've got to work it out for yourself, and maybe in football, maybe what the New England manager should do is not stand on the sideline. Sit up in the grandstand, make them work it out for themselves. Looks at him during the game, take him off the field.
Yeah, it's a theory that we've got to explore in this country. I totally agree with you. I don't know if you always get a good perspective of the game to stand on the touchline anyway. Yeah.
Great stuff, Eddie. Eddie, thank you very much indeed. Best of luck with it all, of course. Eddie Jones there, 14 wins in a row on the trot. Great record for England rugby, and I'm sure it's going to continue to go from strength to strength.
Oh, without doubt. This man's he's become an English hero already.
Yeah. So how is it that you can accept a foreign coach in the rugby mode, but not in football?
Well, Well, because I'm not emotionally tied to rugby as I am to football,
No.
and I do understand that with rugby being a game which has such a huge presence in the Southern Hemisphere, you're going to have to draw on the talent in the Southern Hemisphere to try and improve things in the Northern Hemisphere.
Okay.
Whereas I've always believed that because, you know, we should be so strong as a group of of European countries, Germany and Spain.
Well,
and
no, you're
England,
talking about just Britain,
France.
though.
No, well, Britain.
Or in fact, just England.
England's included in that we shouldn't need to go anywhere else for
No,
our
but
coaches.
you don't want anyone to go to Europe for a coach, though. You
No, I
want to
don't.
get only coaches in England. So
Yeah,
it's nothing to do with the Northern Southern Hemisphere.
No, I didn't say. I said that rugby is Northern Southern Hemisphere. What I'm saying is, I still don't think it's absolutely necessary to bring in coaches from South America, which incidentally is in the Southern Hemisphere, just by coincidence, to come and ply their trade in Europe.
I see.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what you're saying there.
Well,
I didn't make any sense of
you
that
weren't paying
question at all.
attention in that case, were you?
This is talkSPORT.